Hi, good morning, friends, and welcome to the 2022 Graduate Day celebration. It is wonderful to see so many of the community students passing out of high school and many of them out of college as well. We are very happy to announce today that we have a very special guest, very accomplished, very talented guest here to speak to all of you about how to pick a career and how to find your passion and how to go about your life in a way that feels satisfying. So hopefully this is something that all of you will find very inspirational and something that you will love. And there's lots of discussion about parents as well and how we work with our children to help them choose careers and so on. So we hope that this will be very inspirational to all of us. I'll quickly introduce Prerna. Prerna is our youth leader within the New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania Odisha Society community. And Prerna is very well known and very well loved by all of the students in the community. She has helped so many of them write their college applications and take job interviews and so on. So I'll have Prerna say hello, and then we'll quickly introduce our guest today.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Nagashankal. Excited to be here, excited to be celebrating another year of graduations, and really excited to talk to you, Emily.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right. So Emily Shah is our special guest today, and Emily has very recently been the lead female actor on a movie called The Jungle Cry. The Jungle Cry is based on a real story out of Odisha, and in 2017, the children and the students from the Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences went on to win the World Junior Rugby Championship. It was a fantastic accomplishment, both for the students and for the Kalinga Institute. And Emily and the team have produced a movie exactly on this historical accomplishment. Very accomplished, very talented actor. And Emily has been, in the industry for a while. And we learned that she's done some very interesting jobs within the industry. So we'll talk about that more as we go forward. So I'll hand over to you, Emily, if you can say hello to our family of students who are graduating this year. And then Prerna will just walk us through some of the questions.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Shaw. I'm actually originally from New Jersey as well. I'm from Edison, New Jersey. I grew up there my whole life, and then I went to college in Los Angeles where I studied entertainment media management. Obviously, I had to get a degree because if you're Indian, you have to get a degree. So I pursued my passion in entertainment, but on the business side. In the meanwhile, I was taking all these different acting classes outside of college and pursuing my dreams as an actress, but really understanding the production side and the background of how a production works, how a film set works, how it runs, and all of that good stuff. So I was able to really understand as an actress when I came on set what to expect, what to anticipate, the terms I should know, being on set. So it was a great background that I kind of built myself and my career off of. And, I really believe in the fact that if you work hard, you will achieve your dreams. So.
That's great, Emily. I was actually going to start off and say, just ask if you could share a little bit more about your childhood. I didn't realize that you grew up in Edison. I'm also from Edison. South or north?
South. I went to Edison High.
Nice. I was there for a little bit. I went to Thomas Jefferson Middle School for a while, but then after that, I switched over to the north side. So I went to JPC.
North side, yeah. I went to Herbert Hoover, so not too far.
Yeah. Familiar names. Oh, that's awesome. We were in the same neighborhood. I'm sure we were in the same area once in a while. Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about how you transitioned into acting. I mean, were there resources even in Edison that you kind of forayed into, or how did you decide that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I actually started off as a dancer when I was a young child. My mom put me into dance classes when I was 2, just to, again, have discipline, have a sense of community. She put me in a bunch of hobbies, but dance was something that I had really taken to. And I knew that I really loved the arts, the creative arts for that matter. And I wanted to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. So, I started off dancing, and then I kind of gravitated towards theater and wanting to act and really, expressing myself in that type of art form. And so I joined a couple of theater companies when I was a kid. I joined my theater school in Edison High, and as well as Herbert Hoover. I did as much of the arts programs that were accessible to me, which, New Jersey does have a lot of, and so does America. The rest of the schools in the US have quite a bit of arts programs around, or, recreational type of after school arts programs. So I was able to take part in a lot of those. And yeah, really just found that passion for acting. And I knew at a young age I wanted to do this. And so I kind of, when I was hitting about middle school to high school, I kind of had that laser focus of, okay, this is what I'm going to really focus on. Instead of doing 10 different art forms like dance and singing and all this other stuff, I'm really going to focus on acting at this point. So
that's great. What about acting attracted you to it so much? I mean, especially since it sounds like you've done so many different types of art forms.
Yeah, I really loved evolving into different characters and being able to play somebody that I'm not. And, when I was playing these characters, I realized that I had the power to make people feel different things that they may not feel on a daily basis, and to maybe even reach a different part of, their soul or their mind that they just wouldn't reach on a regular basis. So I remember I did a monologue in one of my theater classes, and we were doing a performance, and I did a monologue based on cancer because my mom was dealing with cancer at the time, and it was me having a conversation with cancer. And there was so many people in the audience that were touched by it and started crying. And it made me realize that although these people may not talk about it or may not tell you what they're dealing with on the outer surface, they're humans at the end of the day, and they are dealing with their own struggles. And maybe this monologue or this performance touched them in a way that I wouldn't have been able to touch them outside of my art form. So I felt like that was a very powerful medium for me to have.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your acting style. What type of roles do you like to play, and what kind of characters resonate with you the most?
I really like to play meaningful characters. Jungle Cry is an attest to that. So, I love to do stories that are very meaningful. Of course, we all love our masala films. We all love the bigger than life Bollywood films and, the Marvel films and things of that, great fantasy that we love to watch in theaters. But at the end of the day, that's really my passion, is doing roles and creating content that's very meaningful and that touches people on an international level. So whether that's something like Jungle Cry or even something like, Money Heist, which the whole world, or Squid Games, that the whole world can watch and even connect to, although you may not speak that language. Those are the types of content that I'm really attracted to and want to be a part of.
That's great. Now, I mean, there's many accomplishments that we know of about you, Emily, and we saw a couple online, including you being the youngest Miss New Jersey USA winner. And this is really cool. You were an assistant stunt director for Captain America 2 and Fast and Furious. So what's that like? What's the day in the life of a stunt director?
Yeah, I was assisting Spiro Rosatos, who's one of Hollywood's greatest stunt directors. I mean, he's done like Bad Boys and Fast and Furious, like, and Marvel and, King Kong. I mean, his resume just goes on, and he's been in this industry for about, maybe 40, 50 years almost. So he's been around for a long time. He's a veteran, and I got to be his personal assistant when I was 18, right out of college. So I spent the summer working with him, and it was a learning curve. It was something that I was totally outside of my comfort zone doing. I had no idea what I was doing, but as my mother says, you either sink or you swim. And I chose to swim, so I figured it out. There were times where I remember being on set and him saying, oh, we have to look at the previs for the day. And I had no idea what that meant, but thankfully we all have a phone and I can Google it. So I learned quickly that day what a previs was. And basically that meant, a preview of what the shots are going to look like and in an animated form on, an iPad or a digital format that the directors can look at and say, okay, this is our next stunt sequence that we're going to do in the next shot or tomorrow, that we can get ready for and prepare for, whether it's safety wise or sequence wise. So yeah, it was just things like that I had to learn. I came right out of high school. I never wrote a check before. And I remember Spiro Rosatos asking me to write a check to Universal Studios. And I panicked and I had to YouTube how to write a check. So it was just things like that, where it's like, you're going to get thrown these kinds of curveballs in your life. And especially becoming an adult, it's going to happen. I mean, it still happens to me to this day. And you kind of just have to figure it out. The world's not going to sit there with a golden plate to just hand you all the questions. It's up to you to kind of figure out and navigate. But if you believe in yourself, you will figure it out and it will work.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely relate to that, not being able to write a check. And I feel like there's it sounds like you're doing a lot of like learning on the job and just kind of Googling and figuring things out, but really being motivated, right? Self-motivated to just figure it out and see what you can learn from your everyday experiences, which is great.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
The key thing, I think, for any job. Now, one of the biggest reasons why we were so excited to talk to you today was because of your role in Jungle Cry that Nagesh Uncle summarized earlier in this call. It's fascinating that there's an Indian movie about rugby, an Indian movie, let alone like an Odia one. So how did you prepare for this? I mean, was it kind of similar where you had to research rugby? Did you shadow anybody to just learn more about it?
Yeah, I always say it's better to be overprepared than underprepared, overdressed than underdressed, overeducated than uneducated. So I prepared as much as possible. I did shadow a sports physio that was specializing in rugby out of Denver, Colorado, and she was Gujarati. So I was like, this is perfect. It's literally what this character is, and is American on top of that. So I did shadow her for about a week. I was in constant communication with her. I went to rugby games in Wales and London. I watched as many matches as I could on TV. I was, it's all or nothing with me. And I think that, when you get into a career and you choose your passion, you kind of have to have that mindset. You give it everything or you give it nothing. And so I gave my 110% on the research and really being involved and communicative with the rugby community. And it did help me, prepare for this role because like you said, India and America, really, it's not a big rugby community whatsoever. I mean, India is known for cricket and kabaddi, and then America is known for basketball and football, American football. So I had to really learn from the ground up. And I knew that being American was going to be a challenge. I knew working with India, who doesn't know anything about rugby, was also going to be a challenge because we're all new to this sport. So I just wanted to be, very well prepared and know my craft, know my terms, know the rugby game, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it was a challenge in the beginning, but once I put my mind to it, then everything else came as a breeze, I guess.
Great. No, that's awesome.
I just wanted to check, Emily, how was it working with the students of the Kalinga Institute? We know that they were not professional actors, they were actually students of the Institute. And so how was that experience in terms of, one, helping them learn the acting part of a movie, but also just as your interactions with those kids, how did they do and what did you feel like?
Yeah, those kids are so incredibly disciplined. And being an American, how do I find the right words? Sometimes that's hard to find with American kids. So it was kind of shocking to see how disciplined they were because of the fact that, I come from a culture where that's not really the case. And so when I had entered Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences and I saw, there was like 6,000 or 7,000 kids in the canteen sitting there with Dr. Samantha, and they were doing the rain claps, these claps that they do, and they were doing it on the beat. And when he came in, they stood up, they sat down. The discipline that they had was something that I had never really experienced or seen before, and I was very shocked by it in a good way. And I realized in that moment that when you give kids a platform and you give them, a special, I always say this, the kids are like seeds, but when you give them their rightful pot that they can grow in, then they're going to flourish into a beautiful plant. And so I think Dr. Samantha has done an incredible job with that because the discipline that he has taught them, the respect, the commitment, the dedication, I mean, it's something that I don't think anybody has really ever seen outside of Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences. So I was, taken aback by that. And so for that reason, it was actually very easy and very natural for us to work with them because they were so easygoing. They were so incredibly respectful. They were very disciplined. They were more professional than, some of the other actors that I've worked with in Hollywood that are working on these massive blockbuster films. So I genuinely appreciated working with them, and they were just a gem to work with because of their dedication, their just gratefulness to be on set every day and to show up and perform.
Even as I was coming through high school and college and so on, we've heard of Dr. Samantha and how he has transformed that space and the number of children he was able to provide opportunities to. And we know that it's a huge place, anywhere between 30 and 50,000 children. And many of them have today reached national and international levels of sports. I heard one of the statements that he made, and I think your dad, Mr. Prashant Shah also made, was education and sports eradicates poverty. And that stayed with me to say that, this is so wonderful that we are able to bring these kids on and help them in those areas. Did you see, how did that resonate with you in terms of how they were looking at the education and sports aspect of that, of the institute?
Yeah, I think, especially in America right now, we're seeing children kind of grow up with a lot of like mental hardships. And I can attest to that because I'm American. So I think when you give children a sense of community and a sense of belonging, they understand that they're needed in this world and that their life matters and other children's lives matter and respect matters and things like of that nature. So I think we lack that a lot in America. So yeah, I think that because of the fact that Dr. Samantha was able to give them that sense of community, those tools under their belt. I mean, even beyond education, he's been able to teach these children a craft of what they kind of can, pursue, or they might excel in, like farming or fishing or tailoring, because he realizes that maybe not every kid wants to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, and that's okay. Maybe they're going to be incredible fishermen or incredible farmers or incredible, craft makers or artisanal craft makers. So he understands that. And I think that's incredibly special for somebody, especially from India, to understand, okay, these kids have, different purposes and not everybody's going to maybe follow the path that your typical Indian parent or uncle or auntie would want them to follow. So, for him to be able to give them those tools, give them that sense of community, you can see them just sufficiently exceed because of that. So
That's great. I know Nagesh Uncle mentioned it in the beginning of this call, but Munwananti has a video of you saying that Bhubaneswar is better than Mumbai. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you like most about Odisha? I mean, was there like a specific food, or was it the culture, art? What stood out to you?
I do love Mumbai, but I just appreciate how clean and how beautiful Bhubaneswar is. I just think that, like, again, I think that they have this different type of discipline in Odisha that is not really seen, or I haven't really seen it, in Mumbai or Delhi, the two major cities of India. So I appreciate that because I'm like, okay, there is that type of respect for your own city. You see on the walls in Bhubaneswar, there isn't that spit of pan. There's beautiful artwork from the local painters and the local artisanal craft makers that are from the communities there. So I just think that when you see that, and then you understand, like, okay, this town and this area of India respects who they are, they respect their land, they respect their community, and they're very proud of it. And that's something that you don't really see in countries or cities around the world, for that matter, forget India. So it's very, it took me kind of aback to see how involved the community was with their own city and how much respect and pride they have of Odisha. So yeah, I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in India that I visited so far, and I really love it there. It's very, very clean, and the people there are very respectful, and the food, oh my gosh, the food is just incredible. It's the best. My mouth's watering. Whew.
Yeah. No, so the next time you're in New Jersey, you have a whole family of Odisha people here who would love to pamper you with food. So
I would love that. I would love that.
Welcome anytime. So I think your point about art is pretty important. I think even as many, so I'm Odia American, right? So in many of the folks who grew up within this community, across all of the different Odia communities within America, they can attest to this, but arts were always something that we were encouraged to pursue as a hobby, right? People would sing or dance or do poetry or do paint or do painting. I mean, it was something that was almost expected, that what dance do you do? Do you do Odissi? Do you do Bharatanatyam? Like it's always something that's kind of in the background, and people would encourage us to do performances or kind of hold plays that we would act in. So do you have any words of advice for graduates who may be interested in pursuing a career instead of just leaving it as a hobby, and something that may be considered unconventional, I'll say, especially in the Indian American community?
Yeah, I kind of bullet point. I was thinking about this last night, and there's 5 things that I kind of bullet pointed that I wish somebody would have told me when I graduated. So if it's okay, I'd like to share those.
Yeah, thoughts. Of course.
So the first thing that I wish someone would have told me is that energy is currency, because when you pay somebody attention, it's an investment. So be mindful about where you spend your time. So that way you make beneficial investments, and treat your time, as much care as you would treat your finances, because they're equally as important. So with that being said, spend and invest your time into your craft, into yourself, spend time and energy in investing in yourself. And, ultimately that will have an outcome, because as we know, energy is never destroyed nor created. It's only transformed from one asset to another. So that's number one. Number two, not everybody is going to believe in you, and that's okay. It's not the world's job to be your supporter, and you only owe it to yourself to persevere and be your own cheerleader, because you know what, if you don't believe in yourself first, then who else is going to, right? So you've got to make sure you believe in yourself first. The third thing I wanted to share is that continue to invest, practice, and show up for your craft as much as possible. Because like I said, hard work is just hard work when, talent doesn't show up for that hard work. So you've got to put in that hard work, and then, your talent will follow and people will continue to see that. And the fourth thing is, it's okay to outgrow people who don't grow with you, because a seed only grows and flourishes in an environment that's ideal for that seed to grow in. So make sure that your environment is set for you. So, sometimes that leads me to my fifth point. Sometimes, your new life might cost you your old one. It might cost you to be outside of your comfort zone. It might cost you your friendships, your relationships, your, family relationships with your family members. Even it might even cost you how much people understand you or even like you. But honestly, none of that matters, because the people that are meant for you and the people that will love you will be there on the other side to support you. And that's exactly what you want on your journey. So sometimes it's going to feel like you're hitting constant crossroads, but continue persevering, because it will pay off.
Yeah, I really love your point about the focus, the energy, and the focus on just like helping others, right? And then just putting that time into something that you're really passionate about. And it's not just about, once in a while you're motivated about something. It's actually discipline. So even on like the days that you don't want to do it, you need to do it, right? So that came out from everything that you just shared.
And even if let's say you have to get a job just to make ends meet, right? And let's say that your parents aren't supporting you and you're kind of out here on your own. Even if you are doing, let's say, a 9-to-5 job, or let's say you're doing like a serving job, or whatever the case may be, take 5 minutes out of your day to invest in your craft, whether that's, painting or writing a scene or watching an acting class or, memorizing some lines. Take those 5 minutes, because like I said, energy is never destroyed nor created. It's just transpired. So if you're spending that kind of time and energy in your craft, it will always come back to you, and that time and energy will reciprocate back into your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So Emily, just wanted to say thank you once again for taking the time to do this interview. I know this is early morning on a Saturday in Mumbai, and I know you're probably busy with a ton of events. So appreciate it again. And thank you on behalf of the Audio community in New Jersey.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. And know that we are all here for you. So whenever you're back in the US, we'll both share our phone numbers. You Definitely. Want to have any kind of food, any kind of cultural experience, we do a lot of events all year round. Okay. So these are wonderful events where you get a glimpse of Odisha, the culture, the tradition, and also a lot of food. So we would love to have you join us whenever you're in New Jersey.
I will be there with my fork and knife.